Okay, it is 6:30. I am going to move to open the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think our first item of business is Andrew. Are you ready to go?
I believe so, Mike? You think so?
I believe so.
Andrew Stewart is here to introduce the commission to the floodplain permitting system that is now in effect.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Andrew Stewart. I am the building commissioner. I know most of you now. So I also serve as the floodplain administrator, and I thank you very much for letting me come in tonight and kind of clear the air on the floodplain permit. I wanted to also just give you a little bit of background on me so you knew kind of where I'm coming from, why I'm so passionate about this, and why I'm taking it so seriously. And then just kind of give you an opportunity to go through the actual process of the floodplain permit with an example, and we can all kind of collaboratively go through that. And then so you understand the application side of the process. And then we'll show you a little bit of the back end process of how I handle the applications from the review standpoint, how all the other departments are involved in the process, and how really it's designed to be a collaborative effort on everybody's behalf to really make the process overall for permitting any kind of work happening in a flood zone a lot easier for the applicant, for the designer, for the town, and really for the homeowner. So this is my information. I really ask any of you, please, if you have any questions whatsoever, email me anytime. That's really the best way to get in touch with me is through email, and I say that to all the homeowners and everybody else. And my door's always open for a meeting. Just call the office and schedule something. We'll make time with you if you have any questions about a project or anything else. So I'm a Massachusetts building commissioner. I'm also an unrestricted construction supervisor, so I can do commercial and residential building. And I'm also a certified floodplain manager with the Association of State Floodplain Managers. That certified floodplain manager license gives us, the town of Marshfield, a little bit of extra credit with our community rating system program, which I'll get into in a little bit. And what we get credit from is if that certified floodplain manager reviews, approves, and inspects all floodplain development activities. So that was an important part of once I became the building commissioner, once I started learning really about the CRS program, we started brainstorming in the CRS PPI committee how we could get more points and really benefit the residents a little bit. This was an easy thing for me to take some training and really do some studying, get really into it, get certified, and benefit the town. So a little bit about me is I've been in the area doing 20 years now of custom coastal home building. My father and I had a construction company in Situate, and we worked up and down the coast. We've built a lot of houses in flood zones in all these towns, done a lot here in Marshfield as well. I've also volunteered after Hurricane Katrina down in St. Bernard's Parish and then again in Manahawkin Beach and Brick, New Jersey after Hurricane Sandy. So I've seen a lot of things firsthand, but the other thing about me is I am an environmentalist and a conservationist at heart. I've, at a very young age, did a lot of outward-bound courses and practiced leave no trace. I spent a lot of time in the outdoors. I've spent a lot of time on the North and South River paddling. And I've seen a lot of devastation that happens at the hands of major storm events in Louisiana, in New Jersey, and here at home. So these are just some pictures from New Jersey and also from Brant Rock, that building there. That's the old, the one with all the rocks on it. That used to be right down in Brant Rock where some of the new structures are now. So that's why I'm passionate about what I do. Is because I love this area, I love the environment, and I want to protect our residents from seeing that kind of devastation. And that devastation can happen in any storm. Just looking at this picture right here, we can see the South River and where it used to come out on Rexham Beach. And in one night, in one storm, it completely changed the landscape, changed everything. And if that kind of an event were to happen now, we can imagine the type of devastation and damage that would be done around here. So what we have to do is do our best now to try to plan for that and take every opportunity that we can to improve the structures and improve the land in a responsible way so that we can protect these resources, protect the homeowners from having to replace everything and really have a disastrous thing. So in an effort to kind of help that ultimate goal, and also to help our standing with FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program and the community rating system. The floodplain permit was developed to be the town of Marshfield's permitting pathway for all construction and development activity in a FEMA special flood hazard area, which is the same exact thing as land subject to coastal storm flowage. They're one and the same. So why does the town of Marshfield require a floodplain permit? Well, we are an NFIP community. That means we're members of the National Flood Insurance Program. So in October of 1977, just before the blizzard of 78, the FEMA issued maps for Marshfield. We accepted them as our official flood maps and became a member of the National Flood Insurance Program. We, in 2016, became a member of the community rating system, and this is an extra program within the National Flood Insurance Program that communities can engage in to receive different benefits. Basically, you get involved in this program, your customers that get, or your residents that have to pay for flood insurance will receive discounts based on where you're at. We also get better access to disaster relief funds and recovery funds. And we get a lot of access to officials and guidance being in this community, in this CRS program. The other thing is the floodplain bylaw. So the Marshfield floodplain bylaw was adopted at town meeting. We've always had a floodplain bylaw for years. I think Mr. Finn actually may have been part of writing that back in the 70s. But so the floodplain bylaw has been there for quite a long time, since we became a member of the National Flood Insurance Program. And there's always been a requirement for a floodplain permit. And the way that most communities across the country have always handled those is by relying on the various individual boards or departments to issue their own permits in a development, for any kind of development. Because let's face it, you, as the Conservation Commission, will handle a lot more different things than what is permitted by building or zoning or any other thing. You've got a much more broader spectrum of stuff in the land subject to coastal storm flowage. But then you might also not permit things that we do. And as far as not have to give approval to things that we do have to give approval for in the flood zone. And there's a wide variety of things that are easily missed if you leave it to that kind of each department to their own device. And one thing I've noticed a lot is like maybe the Board of Health doesn't do the right thing for a flood zone because they're not aware that there's an actual flood zone regulation for how that system has to be designed or created or installed because of that flood zone that they're in. So there's a lot of different kind of factors, and because we are an NFIP community in CRS, if we don't make sure that those factors are addressed, in the end, if they're ever found out, they have to go back and make it compliant to where it was supposed to be at that time. And that's something that we are encountering here in Marshfield, but we're encountering that across the country. There's a number of stories of different communities, not just in coastal communities, but a lot of the riverine flooding areas that have happened in the last year or two in Appalachia and everywhere else. There's been a lot of that type of flooding that has triggered lookbacks to properties as long as 30 years ago and making them elevate their house 4 feet in the air to where it should have been done back then. But because they didn't have the right oversight and weren't kind of looking at everything together, things got missed. So the floodplain bylaw basically requires that we have permits for any kind of development activity, and it's the placement of structures, changes and additions to buildings, drilling, mining, paving, other development that might increase flooding, alteration of topography, filling or removal of earth. Sound familiar? That's because it's 310 CMR. It also has identified these as activities subject to regulation under the WPA. So the protection of flood control functions, storm damage prevention functions, the natural floodplain functions, these are all shared goals of the wetlands protection and floodplain management. And the Massachusetts Building Code is specifically designed to support the Wetlands Protection Act and the NFIP, and places the building official in Massachusetts in a really unique position where we can ensure that the requirements of coastal wetlands resource areas and special flood hazards areas are being met, which is why a lot of floodplain administrators are actually building commissioners in Massachusetts. So what activities need floodplain permits? Well, we're talking all development activities, so new construction, demolition and additions, decks, fences, sheds, generators, seawalls, driveways, patios, walkways, all the things that we look at, dredging, docks, piers, bridges, and public utilities. And that's one thing I've really I'm trying to get the Board of Public Works on board with really, getting involved with this so that we can make sure that they're doing everything right too. So what does the floodplain permit actually do as we have designed it? Well, it provides a checklist of all required permits, and that's a very specific thing that gets us points with CRS. If we give people a checklist of all the different permits that you're going to need based on that activity, that's something that gives us points. It tracks those permits' progress and inspections throughout all the different departments. Maintains a cohesive site to have records of site plans, elevation certificates, permits, approvals, documents, and it helps maintain and improve our status with the community rating system. So how do you apply? Well, we try to make it as easy as possible, and that's just going to the Marshfield, Massachusetts building page. We go to the building department page. From there, we've got a link right on the top that says apply for permits. You create an account and you select the building department. Hopefully at some point we're going to have a lot of departments doing their permitting online through this system, and the concurrent permitting and cross-checking things will happen a lot more smoothly than it currently does. But you'll choose the building department and the floodplain permit, and then we'll get going. The intended result of this collaborative effort is great success for all of us. So that's what I'm hoping for here. So Mike, if you would switch over the screen. What we're going to do right now is we're going to just show you what you would do if you're a resident going through the floodplain permit. So If you go up to the top there, Mike, to departments, or to government, and go down to the building department, and apply for permits is right on the top left there. And you can click down, and he's just gonna sign into an account because we already have an account going for this right now. And you can just hit login on the, I'm probably gonna have to switch over.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll do it real quick. Sorry. Did you close it? No.
Yeah, I think I closed it.
All right, please. Sorry about that. So you just scroll down a little bit, right there is the building department, click on the building department, and the first.
Could I just ask one
Sorry,
question?
yeah,
No,
sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Go right ahead.
Do you have to create an account to get into the system?
Yes, you do. So
Okay.
if you didn't have an account already to log in like I did, you would click on the create an account there, and it's a pretty easy process where you just use your email, create a username or use your email and just create a
Okay.
password, and it's very simple. At that point, you can also enter information about yourself, about your address and whatnot, and that'll save in there. So we'll select floodplain permit, and we're gonna apply online. So my information is already saved in here. You can click next, Mike. And we're gonna, we have 3 different options where you can do an address or a parcel, right? You can do a point on a map. So let's say there's some sort of activity maybe happening in a floodway for some reason, or out in the marsh, like somebody's doing an osprey stand or something like that, and it's out in the middle of the marsh somewhere, but you wanna show where it is, and you could certainly do that. Or a segment. A segment is good for utilities or for seawalls where it's spanning multiple properties and you want to capture all of that stuff. But we're going to do just an address here. We're going to go to 19 Abbey Street, I think will work, yeah. So this was a house I actually rebuilt years ago. So this is in a velocity zone in a coastal dune barrier beach, and so you can just go down and click next. So you can see here it preloads. We have it. Sorry, we can just show this real quick. It preloads the property owner information, and so you can update this right at this point with your phone number and email, and will save until it gets changed either by the assessors or by one of the administrative users within the town. So you can go down and scroll that through. So that allows us to have a contact information for the actual homeowner in case there's some reason to get in touch with them. It also gives you the zoning district right there, which is generally accurate on here unless we need to change it. Next, please. So the applicant here, you can select any number of things, be a property owner, owner's agent, contractor, any type of thing. I recommend that the property owner file for this home floodplain permit, because if you're building a house, let's say you're knocking down a house and building a brand new house, there's gonna be a lot of different permits involved, right? So the homeowner's gonna wanna know that everything's getting done right on their project, and they're gonna wanna see the whole process and understand it and be involved with the players, right? If they don't, then they can certainly in charge their contractor or owner's agent or a lawyer or a resident design professional or somebody to handle the process for them and be that point person. But I recommend that if the property owner has the capacity or the desire, that they do it. It gives them a good platform to be able to communicate with us. So you can just put down owner's agent, Mike, and kind of just blast through this with X's and whatnot. So this is just a little statement at the end that as the applicant, that you've got to, no, at the bottom, hang on, Mike, you've got to do the check mark. But this is just saying that as the applicant, you are assuming responsibility for complying with the Town of Marshfield floodplain bylaw and all other applicable, related, and required local, state, and federal permits and approvals, and that you're going to comply with all orders, requirements, and procedures as noted on the floodplain permit. And so basically all they're saying is, we're applying for this development activity, and we're going to properly permit it, and we're going to go through the process, and we're going to follow the rules. That's really all it's saying. It's not any kind of a legal statement or a pains and penalties of perjury or kind of a thing or anything like that. It's basically just saying, hey, by participating in this process, we agree to follow the rules. And that's all the floodplain bylaw really says, is compliance with our regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act, the Building Code, the zoning bylaw, Board of Health regulations, as it applies to flood zone development. So you can just hit AS and hit next. So this is a little bit of the project. Now we get into the meat of the permit. And so this is a far-reaching permit because, as you can imagine, there is a ton of different activities that trigger a lot of different reviews from different people. So we really tried to go for it all. Now, I am definitely open to suggestions on how it could be scaled back if you think things could be changed or amended. This system is highly customizable, and it's very easy to customize, and we can do it on a whim. So absolutely open to feedback if you guys feel there's too much, or if you want to see some things organized a little differently. I'm totally open to changing it and working on it. We haven't, since we did it, we've made minor changes, but we really haven't done any full-scale amendments to it, just because I really haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback from people saying that they have a big issue with how it's kind of done. And I'll be honest, I actually go through this process with a lot of people. If they just come to my office and meet with me and say, hey, we're interested in doing this, I'll say, well, while we're talking about your project, let's fill out your floodplain permit application, and we'll fill it out right at my desk. So I kind of go through this a lot of times with the applicant. So obviously your project type is going to be either a residential project, a commercial project, or like a public utilities or something. Also, we have mixed use buildings in town. So this is going to be a residential project. So you can select that, Mike. And the type of proposed work. So if you look at, there's help text, little help text that I've put in next to all these little things. So that type of proposed work is going to be your main activity. So there's a ton of main activities, obviously, right? So you could be doing all sorts of different things. And maybe you're only doing a shed or a deck. Maybe you're just doing a fence, and you're not doing any of these other things. So that's going to be your main activity. But in this case, our main activity is going to be the new construction of the house. That's the thing we're going to be doing for the longest time. So this is going to be a raise and rebuild of an existing property and associated landscape improvements and accessory structures. And so when we say the proposed square footage of the area of work, we're talking the whole thing. So really, if this is let's say it's a 7,000 square foot lot or something, I think it's somewhere around there. You know, they're pretty much going to be impacting of just about the entire thing. So it's going to be like 5,000 square feet of impact, you know, so we'll put 5,000 square feet. So we're asking all these questions because they trigger different reviews. So is it going to relocate an existing structure? So this is going to be no. demolishing yes, we're gonna be demolishing a structure. So if you see it popped up a different question. So a lot of the answers to these questions pop up another question. So now we wanna know, when was the original structure built? Well, I know this original structure was built in 1950, right? So that was, so if it was 1950, that's only 73 years, back. 75 years is what triggers historical review. So if it was 1944 that it was built, it would trigger a historical commission review. So we can set it to 1944 actually right now and have it trigger. So we want to know the existing house. A lot of this is for finding out what they're going to have to remove out of there and what impact that will have, so that you guys can also review for your information when you come to review a project. A lot of this information you'll be able to look and publicly view and see the answers to these questions so that you can make a better judgment call on what you feel is appropriate for conditioning a project. So this would have had a cinder block foundation, would have been the old foundation. It's not going to involve any road construction. There will be grade changes to the property because they currently have, let's say, a bunch of retaining walls and stuff that are going to get messed with. Yes, there's going to be a digging of trench because we're going to do new water, new gas. It is going to involve the modification of the sewage system because we're going to be capping the sewer system and doing a new service in there. Now, is it going to involve a stormwater management system? Gee, I don't know. What is a stormwater management system? I'm unsure about that. So we're going to put unsure, and that's one of the things that we will review when it comes down to it, and Mike and Liz can talk to them about the possibility of doing dry wells or some sort of mitigation on the property to do runoff. So construction of a deck or platform, yes, and that triggers a couple other options. Is it going to be attached or standalone? So this is going to be attached to the structure. And then we are going to have a shed, so we'll put yes. And a dock or pier, no. Elevator, lift, no. But all of these things, are things that I'm looking at, especially like we just had last week, the one on Charlotte, and it's a coastal dune, and they're proposing eventually an elevator. And I said, you can't have enclosures in a coastal dune. That's in the building code, and that's to protect the natural functions in a coastal dune. You don't want anything blocking under there, so you can't have enclosure. I said, that's going to require a variance with the Building Code Appeals Board, and you're going to want to look at that before you, possibly build an elevator shaft that might not be useful in the future. So those are the reason I'm asking these kind of questions. So yes, they're going to do an emergency power generator, and it asks, is it going to be elevated, or how is it going to be elevated? We're going to do a standalone platform, so that's going to require one of our generator platforms. The fuel type for the house is natural gas. The reason I ask that question is if they have oil tanks on the property, right? Or propane tanks. So those propane tanks have to be anchored, or they have to be put underground, or with concrete anchors underground, or they have to be elevated above. So same thing with oil tanks. And then the oil tanks, they need fire department approval too, so it triggers fire department approval. Yes, they're going to remove, this is going to be no on the installation of any fuel tanks, but it is going to involve the removal of an existing oil tank. So we are not going to be constructing any retaining walls. We are going to install a fence, or they want to install a fence, and the fence that they want to install is going to be vinyl panels. And is it going to involve the placement of any footings? Yes. The type of footing is going to be driven timber piles. And will there be more than one type of footing? Yes. And these are for your deck footings, whatnot. And these are going to be, we're going to just say sonotubes, concrete footings. although I think we would all like some other methods, right? But so the applicant, lots of times they don't know, and they're going, oh, we're just gonna do concrete footings, and it gives them the option to say what they want to do, and then us to work with them as far as what's allowed under the laws, or what would be, we feel is more appropriate for this resource area. So will the new structure have a crawl space or enclosure? This will say unsure, because maybe they think they want to have some lattice or something under there, but they don't really know what's allowed. Yes, we're going to do a patio and a hardscape and a walkway. And this is going to have, the type is going to be pervious pavers. We try to give as many options on all these things too, so people also give them ideas, you know, like, oh, I didn't think of that, or we're gonna do that. That needs to get a permit too, or we need to mention that. And it just kind of gets them thinking about all this stuff. So it is gonna include a driveway area, yes. That's also gonna be pervious pavers. And we can skip a lot of the rest of it, Mike, here, because it's flagpoles and you know, if you're gonna have a storage container, they might not know what the depth or width of the trench is gonna be. But then there's an important one, is the importation of fill and the removal of fill. So that's not just for Conservation Commission, but also so the importation of fill over 500 cubic yards triggers special permits with either the Planning Board or the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then also the removal of over 150 cubic yards of topsoil or loam triggers a select board earth removal permit. And then the question about the use of a crane. We have obviously the Marshfield Airport, which you guys are very familiar with. So any cranes that are used in association with construction or solar panels, they have to get checked for a 2-mile radius around the airport, and they have to submit a FAA airspace review to kind of alert the airport that they're going to be using a crane, that the height is going to be okay. And that's something that we've been working with the airport really closely the last 3-4 years to kind of really bring a lot of these crane companies, especially the like the tree removal companies, and that's something I think that, you know, I could get some help from you guys too, to alert some of these tree removal companies, like, hey, you need to get this airspace review, because usually when there's a crane and there's a tree company doing something, I'm the first person to get a call from the airport going, hey, did you know there's a crane down there, you know? So we can hit next, Mike, and then this is a quick last little section here. Just about the flood zone. So they may not know any of this stuff, but, so this is gonna be in VE zone. I think it's a 15 or a 16 there. The zoning district is an R3. And then we do have these questions. So like the lowest grade on the lot. So can you go to the GIS tab, Mike, please? So this is our town mapping system. So anybody in town can look up their project. It's 19, sorry. Anybody can look up their property and they can get in all sorts of information on a property. You can find out your flood zone. You can use some of the tools in there to kind of gauge your setbacks, not only for zoning, but also for wetlands. We have wetlands layers in there, we have zoning layers, all sorts of stuff. So you can kind of gauge their proximity to whether they're in a buffer zone or not. So on 19 here, one of the tools we have are the contours. So I generally will go down to the 1 and 2 foot contour and click that off. And you can see 19 has the 14-foot contour kind of running right through it. So if we go back to the permit tab, the far last one. And so the lowest grade on the lot is like 13, the highest grade on the lot is 14. It would be the same for the lowest and adjacent to the structure. They might have this information on an elevation certificate. If they don't have any of this information, they don't have to. The permit can get applied for without any of this information. They can skip a lot of this stuff, and we have this information a lot of times in the building department, and during my preliminary review, I can input a lot of this stuff. They don't have it. So you just go down to the type of sewage wastewater system and do public sewer. And that water supply is also public. So at this point, it's gonna ask you for any attachments that you might have. If you have an elevation certificate, or you maybe have an existing site plan, or maybe you've already done a lot of work on this project already and have hired design professionals and they have proposed plans and the site plan and all this stuff, you can upload all of that stuff to this. Or if you don't have a single thing, you don't have to do anything. You can just scroll right down to the bottom and click next. None of it is required to get you past this phase. So you just kind of go through, you confirm all the things that you went in, that you put in there. If you wanted to edit anything, you can go back and edit stuff. But we're going to confirm and submit. And when you confirm this, what happens is you are automatically sent this flood insurance information from the PPI committee. You're emailed this flood insurance brochure on the importance of flood insurance and how to get it, and to come down to the building department if you have information, need information about mapping or flood insurance or permitting. And that, giving that document out, that outreach, that public information is something that we get, again, CRS credits for. Mike, if you go to the other OpenGov link now, and just hit refresh on this. So this is kind of my internal page. So we should have, 19 Abbey Street, so that's the newest one, and we'll click on that. So this is what happens when the permit comes in. So the permit comes in on the back end, and now I'm doing a review of the permit. So I'm looking through all this information to find out what I think is the different departments are going to trigger. So obviously I would say this is going to require conservation permitting, it's going to require ZBA permitting because it's a non-conforming structure, non-conforming lot. It's going to require, water department's going to have to shut off their stuff, wastewater's going to be involved, fire department for the oil tank. So there's a bunch of different, and obviously building and all the associated trade permits. So what happens is, Mike, if you go on the far right and go down to the review section that we do, no, on the far side, yeah. So I have these, all these different review areas set up for the various departments. So all the departments will go through and look at it, and then if you just go up to a little bit higher. So this is the first review I do, and I'm going to click on whether or not it requires building department permitting or whether it's not applicable to any of our requirements. I'm also going to say if inspections are required. And this is similar for every single department. And by clicking on those things, it triggers inspections to happen in the workflow later on during the permit. So if the Conservation Commission clicks on that, it'll trigger a point so that if you have to do site visits, Mike can enter the results of those site visits. He can upload pictures from those site visits right into this permit that all of you can see, that we can see, the applicant can see, and so we are all on the same page sharing all this information. So I would go down, if we have an emergency situation, we can address that for emergency certifications, building permit, and letting them know all the different permits. And so as we go through, as the different departments go through and we click off all these things, and like you can slowly just scroll down and show them kind of, actually you can go to the conservation one. So you can see here, airspace review, V-zone design certificate, all these different things that I need for building as construction document I'm putting on there so that when we complete our reviews, so the conservation department, obviously we're showing them if they need a public meeting or a conservation permit. We're not saying you need an NOI or RDA or what it is, but you need a conservation permit, and usually that starts with the RDA process anyway, right? So Mike or Liz would go through and they would click off the different things that the conservation department would want. And so, you know, whether it's de minimis, what the things are you're gonna require, a project narrative, whether they're gonna need a wetlands delineation, whether they need a proposed site plan or a final as-built, what should be on that, an impervious table, a cross-section, do you need a soil survey? Are you gonna have to have erosion control measures? So these are things that you should identify on your proposed site plan to get you through the permitting process as fast as possible. That's the kind of information I'm trying to do in this review, so that people know, all right, let's get all this stuff onto the site plan. Let's give this to our land surveyor and our engineer. Get all this information on the site plan so that if they have to go with one site plan and it satisfies Board of Health with their septic design, it satisfies the ZBA with all their non-conforming stuff, it satisfies you guys with all the impervious table and the coverage and everything else that we're looking for, shows plantings and the types of things that we're looking for, locations, and it satisfies everything from the building department. And they only have to go one time to their, you know, to their service or their design professional. Saves the resident, saves us, saves continuing meetings, all that kind of stuff. So the more information we can get out to them at the beginning of the project to say, hey, these are the things that you need. This is the checklist of all the permits that you need. So that satisfies that basic CRS thing. But we took it another step when we said, let's not just give them the permits they need, but let's give them the information they need to get those permits. And maybe some notes about this and that. And so a lot of time on the notes we'll say, hey, this is a, you know, special, you know, thing, or feel free to contact us and set up a meeting to go over this or whatnot. So a lot of these will get skipped, a lot of them will, if they're not applicable. And so if you look on the left-hand side, after each department has done their review, the departmental requirements for permit, that's essentially the checklist, is issued. If you scroll down a little, yeah, so you can see right there the departmental requirements for checklist. So that is the document that basically it shows all the different departments. It gives the contact information for that department head, and so like it gives Mike and Liz's information and the office, the address, the phone number, email, and then it'll give you all the different permits and the different processes and information that you're going to need. And then from there, it goes into the approval process. So now they're seeking approval. So they are actively seeking building department approval concurrently with health department approval, with planning department, with conservation. So they can go and get those permits at the same time. Because we're sharing information, we're reviewing things together, we're saying, hey, this is what we're looking for buildings, so you guys are aware of it so you can condition it properly. This is what we're looking for from the health department, so you guys know this is what we're going to be doing to meet our regulations. So once they get all, so now let's say they apply for their building permits, we'll hit approval. They get their septic approval, health department approves. They've got their WRPD filling permit with the planning board, they're good to go. They've got their NOI from you guys and their order of conditions, and now their approval, Mike signs off on their approval process. Fire department gives their removal permit for the oil, they get their approval. So we scroll right down, Mike, if you would. And now the final approval, it goes to the floodplain administrator approval. So after all those approvals, each individual boards, they're like, they've got our permit, we're good to go. Comes to me, I look at it, I say, yep, they got all the permits on the checklist, they're good to go. I hit okay. They pay a $50 fee, and then now they can begin the work. And we can organize pre-construction meetings and all that stuff. And then any inspections that happen now happen after that point, after the floodplain permit issuance. Any any departments that clicked on, hey, we want inspections, those steps will automatically input in between the floodplain permit issuance and the floodplain administrator final approval step to have log those inspections. So like for building department inspections, a new house, we won't complete that until we have given them a certificate of occupancy. I've reviewed a final elevation certificate for correction and completeness, and it's ready to submit to FEMA. But you might have another 2 years where you need to have some dune plantings survive, in order to complete your order of conditions, right? So their floodplain permit for that development activity is not complete. The building permit is complete. So this is where we get into the process of not having an overreaching thing and relying on individual floodplain permits. That development activity didn't get completed because whatever, we weren't in concert before. So this is an attempt to make sure that we're completing these projects out. And one of the great things about this is the final steps with this, we can make it so that we can add a step in so that basically 3 years, or let's say even 2 years and 10 months or 9 months before or after a permit is issued, an order of conditions is issued, they'll automatically, or like Mike or Liz will automatically get a notification saying, hey, this permit is going to be up in 3 months. Notify them that they need to file for a request for extended order of conditions, or they need to close out with a certificate of compliance. And that helps you guys keep track of things, because obviously I know you guys hate cleaning up things 10, 12, however many years down the line, and I know that residents hate it when they have to sell a house, new residents hate it when they have to buy a house, so it's going to help all of us to kind of digitally take advantage of this technology to kind of help us all review, issue, approve these permits, keep track of them, close them out. And then once they've gotten their certificate of compliance, they've gotten their, all their different things, they're complete, we give them a certificate of completion from the floodplain permit, and they know that they're good with the town of Marshfield. They know they're good with FEMA. They know they're good with the WPA. They know that they're compliant. They can give that information to their flood insurance company and get some benefits there and some discounts. So that was the goal of this whole floodplain permit, is really a cooperative effort to help people through the process. It was never meant as anything to kind of take over anything or be invasive or anything. It really was designed to kind of help us all work together in a way that would also help the residents. And I know that it's a lot. It is a lot, right? Because there's a ton of information there. I feel like I've been talking for an hour straight, which I know I do a lot, but it's important. And all these things add up. Every little development activity impacts the greater function of Marshfield when we have a flood event. And we're gonna have one of these big events, and we're going to see damage. It's gonna happen eventually. We're in a coastal community. We've seen it. It happens. And I want to be helpful. I want to make sure that we mitigate that as much as we possibly can when we have the opportunity to, and that we do it in a way that is helpful, going forward with people, so that they don't have problems in the future. So I appreciate it. I'll take any questions. I know I just spoke for a really long time. I know it's a lot to absorb, but I'll take any questions. And again, if you have any comments, you want to think about it, you want to get back to me, email me. I'm totally open to any suggestions or comments you may have.
Questions? Mr. Finn?
So,
Pardon me?
Susan, I think.
I just have a question, just to
Sure.
make sure that I'm clear. So you get your floodplain permit, and then in order to get your CRS credits, they won't, if we had issued monitoring, 2-year monitoring, so they don't get their COC until that's done, they don't get their CRS credits
Yeah.
CRS credits until that monitoring is complete, or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, so CRS is not like an individual thing, it's a community-wide thing. So it's basically, if we have a process in place where we are reviewing, approving, and permitting and inspecting development activities. So we have to establish a process and actively follow it. And if we implement that process and follow it correctly, our overall rating will improve because we will close out more permits. We'll show FEMA that we are improving more structures, that we're flood proofing more things, that we're.
So that's my
doing all
question,
this
it's
stuff.
just a tracking device, this doesn't hold them up on getting any future permits
No,
in that interim, because sometimes we'll go out 3 years and.
no, yeah, and the other thing that's kind of cool about this is we could always, if they're in the middle of doing something, you can easily add stuff to the existing floodplain permit. Say they all of a sudden say, oh, we want another shed, or we want to do this other thing, and we didn't think of it before. Well, that's fine, we'll just do that, and then we'll we can manually input a new review step to have Concom look at it and say you're gonna need an amended order of conditions or whatnot, and then track that
Just want to be clear,
process through
it's
that.
tracking, it doesn't affect the.
No, it wouldn't affect whatever's
Any delays.
happening. You would already have it. It's just more of like
It's another check.
yeah, exactly. Or the ability to amend, really, the current approvals.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, I just have one point, I guess, not a question really, but if you present this, it's to the average person, I think, daunting.
Yeah.
And I think if hopefully there's an introductory statement before you go into this process that says, look, if you don't have the information, we probably have it. So you can just say, I don't know, and we'll fill it in for you so that when you see it again, you'll have the information.
Sure, yeah.
And that would be good if you had that as an introductory statement, so people aren't just going, holy mackerel, I don't know what the hell this is all about.
And that's, and part of that is why I have sat down with a lot of residents in my office, and we'll take the 10 minutes or 15 minutes to just talk about their project, explain a couple of things to them, make them a little bit more comfortable with the process, help them start the floodplain permit and create an account. Because I did create the system, and yeah, you're right, Bill, it is daunting, and I understand that. But the effort was more of like, we didn't want to miss anything, right? So there's always an opportunity to scale it back. One of the coolest things about this permit system is that it triggers different things. So if you answer yes or no to a certain question, it'll trigger something else. So we can condense some of these things to say like, are you doing this, and then it can trigger a bunch of other things, and it will only ask those questions if you say yes or no to something else, so I'm like, that's one of the things I think will help. We could kind of condense some of the things that you're looking at, or you think are more significant to have on there, like, do you care if they have a flagpole? Is that something that they should be addressing on the floodplain permit? Because honestly, that's really you're probably the only board that cares about it. We put it on there because, Bill wanted it on there. He wanted literally everything that we can think of, so we put it on there, right? But that doesn't mean it was wrong. We were literally trying to make sure we just covered our bases on the whole thing, so. So I agree, and that's something I'd be happy to work on, yeah.
So, one of the big things we look to you for is determination of substantial improvements. So you'll initiate that as soon as the floodplain permit starts?
Yeah, so essentially.
I've seen the checklist that the applicants have to do, which lets you make that determination.
Yeah.
So you'll start that once this permit starts.
Correct, right.
And then what you need from us is the resource delineation. So are there gonna be times when you go straight to Mike and say, before this advances any further, you have to get it out?
Yep. And a lot of those times.
That way, these things don't advance, and then we're butting heads down the line.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of those times are like the Barrier Beach stuff, right? And you're kind of like, well, it's Barrier Beach, is it coastal dunes, is it salt marsh, is it what, you know, how are we looking at this, right? And, you know, so there's a bunch of different situations like that I think makes it a lot easier to address, right? Your first point, with, the substantial improvement determination, right? So that's one thing, if they say, oh, we're going to do an addition to the house, and that's the floodplain permit, is addition and remodel of existing house, right? And let's say they're not proposing to elevate, they're just proposing to do an addition. Well, that's where I would, on my review step, say this is subject to a substantial improvement determination. I would give them that substantial improvement information at that point, so that before you even start the process of your approval with them, they're aware that I'm gonna be looking for all of this information about the cost of the project, and that they should address that, meet with me, and really go over it, because I have been making concerted effort with people, with designers, to talk about elevating their house before they do these additions, and the importance of really protecting your investment. You know, it's not about trying to come under the number so you don't have to elevate. If you go and spend, let's say, over the course of 3 years on 2 different phases or something like that, $175,000 or $180,000 on an addition and remodel, right? And we get a storm and you got a foot of water in your house, all your cabinets are gone, your sheetrock, your insulation, your flooring, all of that. So now you have all of that stuff you've got to replace, plus an insurance claim. The rates go up for your neighbors, you know, everything increases for everybody. So it's not a benefit to kind of skirt the rules. Whereas if you put the investment into protecting the foundation, right? Because the building is supported by the foundation. You protect the foundation, you elevate it. Now, substantial improvement doesn't matter. You can do whatever addition you want, you can renovate, you can use whatever expensive materials or whatever you want to do on your house, and I don't have to ask you about any of the cost. It's not a matter of making that determination. You can do whatever you want because you're flood-proof the foundation and you've complied with the regulations for elevating the house. So been trying to kind of help people understand that mentality, and a lot of that honestly goes back to what I saw in Brick, New Jersey. And part of the reason I volunteered there was my friend his family had a house down there. His dad had skirted the rules on substantial improvement, lied about the cost of the project, had some hack guys do the work, and then they were wiped out. And the pictures of the first floor fleet, that was their house, wiped out. And now he had spent like $300,000 on these hack carpenters that lied about all this stuff to get the building permit and the job. He had to re-spend all that money, plus an insurance claim, plus he had to elevate the house. So the potential, if you don't elevate and you don't go through that process and we skirt the substantial improvement or kind of let them do the phased thing, the potential for them to have a more devastating impact on them in the future is actually increased. So I think it's that substantial improvement determination is really important, not just for us, but for you too.
When this first came online, I went in and just tried to do one and found it very intimidating.
Yeah.
And I probably know a little more about some of what you're looking for than maybe the average homeowner just coming in.
Yep.
So it is a lot, and it is hard.
Yeah.
I have a question. Say somebody does a raise and rebuild, and we have orders of conditions out there, and the new house goes on the market, and there's potential violations of our orders of conditions. Can you issue a certificate of occupancy for that structure with something like a Concom order of condition not met?
It depends. If the condition was related to the structure, then yes, I could hold off on a certificate of occupancy if it was a violation of the structure. The certificate of occupancy, ultimately, it's weird because it's a function of the building code, but also is included in the zoning code. but typically it's about the life safety aspects of the structure. So a lot of times we will even grant temporary occupancy while they fix a couple of things, just so they can get in. And that's happened a lot, especially since the
Right.
pandemic and whatnot. And people, and we work with people really closely to get all that stuff taken care of, so that they can move in and live in there and satisfy their insurance company, and also work on compliance. What happens is, what happens is the problem in the past really has been, like, if we've given temporary occupancy, there hasn't really been any follow-up, right? And so, again, it lapses, or people just never come back, never finish, whatever. So we've tried to document the temporary occupancy in writing for everybody. We put time limits on it. We put those time limits into our calendar. We send people notifications before that and say you need to renew temporary occupancy or submit all this stuff, or you're gonna have a violation. And then if they have a violation, depending on the seriousness of it, yeah, they can get occupancy revoked for a floodplain violation, which would include any violation of any order or permit issued by the Conservation Commission or any other board that had anything to do with the floodplain. So any of those conditions get violated, we can certainly issue a notice of violation to that property, and depending on the seriousness of it, it could be anything from, a fine, revocation of certificate of occupancy, or sending it to FEMA for, revoking their flood insurance, which ultimately could revoke their mortgage. So there's some serious stuff.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a buyer coming in and,
Yeah, look.
and then all of a sudden, we're like, hey, they're clueless, they don't know.
Sure.
And you issued a violation just recently on a property that I'm concerned about with that. And, well, you've issued the violation, but it's not a structural one.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, and so part of that is so with the floodplain bylaw, as the floodplain administrator, and this is a FEMA thing that they put in the bylaw, it's CRS, so as the floodplain administrator, I am required to serve notice of any violations in the floodplain for any development activity or any violation of any permit or order or anything. So a lot of it is, what I found is in the past, the building commissioners, there wasn't follow through, and a lot of it was, let's have a meeting and talk about it, but they never really put it in writing, and a lot of these things got lapsed. You would have homeowners doing requests for enforcement for the same thing year after year after year, and it was never any follow-up. So all the training I've ever gotten was like, get it in writing, issue, write these things very specifically. I was given, very specific legal guidance on how to write these notice of violations, so that there is basically a time of when we started some action, right? So that there's, that's really important when it comes to legal proceedings, that you have a date where everything started on. So that's really what it comes down to. And ultimately, I know there can be some scary language in there about potential fines and all this other stuff, but it's an attention grabber, and it's a, hey, come in and meet with me and let's discuss this and get it resolved. And that's generally 95% of the people that receive those letters are in my office within a week or two, and we're having a meeting, and they're leaving there thankful that I'm explaining to them, that I've assured them that it's not gonna result in these crazy things, and that if they work with us, we'll help them get through it, resolve whatever issue it is, get them properly permitted, and we'll get through it and close it out. And usually after that initial meeting, I'll send them a letter then that is a, kind of a progress report, or like a recap, and thank you for coming in and meeting with me, thank you for addressing these things we discussed, you're gonna meet with the Conservation Commission about this, you're gonna file for this permit, you're gonna do this. And so then there's a record that they're compliant. And then, once they do all those things and they meet those things, I send out a closeout letter saying, thank you, we've met all the requirements, your property or whatever is no longer in violation, and if you ever have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to me. And what that does is, ultimately helps me establish like a relationship with that resident, and then through that process of helping them resolve it, there's a trust built, and I found that the vast majority of the people that I work with, that process works out really well for all of us. And there are folks that don't like to participate in that process and try to fight it instead. And that's when it becomes difficult.
I just wanted to say one thing. When you do file the floodplain permit, I did notice that the population field, it says clearly that you don't know. So I don't know how it can get much easier than that, which is also benefit, you know, that's something that you're gonna see, and they can come to you and work that out in the future.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I have gotten a lot of permits, and it'll be unsure, just blank, you know? And that is totally fine, and I tell people that you don't know the answer, you don't have, you don't know, leave it blank. The thing is, you've got it in there, and now I'm doing a review, now we'll have an ability to talk about it, we can set up a meeting, and you can come in, and I can help you figure it out. All of those things, when I have individual meetings with people about their properties, that is a service that we provide to get CRS credits. So I provide the property protection advice and property protection visits. So I'll go and do a site visit and say, hey, you know, this is the state of your property. You should do this, this, and this. You could do this, this, and this, and then come on into, you know, if you're interested, come down and we can get you set up, maybe do a floodplain permit and get you set up to do whatever you want. So that's part of our offered services, is that property protection advice, and I've been lumping in with that property protection advice, you know, service, helping people fill out the floodplain permit to get the whole process going for them. And then I shoot them right upstairs to talk to Mike on this.
Okay, well, that's very comprehensive. Thank you for
Sorry, yeah.
giving us your time tonight.
Yeah, of course.
This was very informative.
All right.
And we'll try to keep it working.
Yeah.
And send everybody in your direction for their floodplain permits.
Yeah, and then literally as soon as it gets to me, it goes to you. You know, it's just meant to be the pathway for development activity. And so it comes in, and we shoot it right out after a quick review. And Mike and Liz are really good at responding to it. They've been working great with the whole permit, and so they're really awesome to work with.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Furnace Brook Trails, and I see Ned here.
Good job, Andrew. Number one.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Ned Baggins, Vice Chair of the Recreation Trails Committee. And we have in front of you is a footbridge that actually was approved by the building department. Andrew, thank you for approving that. We're planning to work with NEMBA, New England Mountain Bike Association, as well as the Friends of Wampanoag State Park, to have a build day in July. This bridge, the footbridge, is it's a new trailhead that will be at the St. Christine's Church parking lot. The church has approached us on it to establish a trailhead in their parking lot. They know that Route 3A is somewhat of a nightmare to walk on. If you pop out of the trailhead right there are cars that are clearly going fast, and it's hard to navigate that. This will provide a safer alternative, and the church will help us both physically on the build day as well as financially. They promised a donation that will be coming in the next week or so. We look forward to have this area done. Outside of the footbridge, there'll be 2 small loop trails and just a small basic frontier bench that will provide some nature seating. We spent some time on it and look forward to it. The Route 3A, once this is established, then the trailhead on Route 3A, we're just going to let it close in. There's not a need to maintain that anymore. It's just a hazard that doesn't need to be there now. That's what we have.
Do we have any aerial map that shows?
Yeah, I could pull that up right now.
Is this on Concom land or just land?
It's on the town land.
Okay.
Yeah. We go through, so on the church land right now is the parking lot, and then there's a kiosk that we have set up, and then the design entrance. And when Bill was here, we walked it with him probably at least 4 times to get the lay of the land. So it was good, it was very helpful.
That's what Bill liked.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you just sort of point where on this bridge will actually be? I mean, there's a lot of tree cover there, but just to orient.
So 3A parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be in this area here.
Okay. Yep.
Are they new, the new loop, are those, the loop trails you're talking about, are those new or are they pre-existing trails?
They will, there'll be new trails, yes. It's something that when we were speaking with the church, they were looking for some, so right now, if you enter that area, you have an option to walk kind of parallel with 3A down to School Street. Or you can take the trail and walk north up to Forest and Pine Street. And there weren't any options for smaller trails to walk. And one of the ideas that the church had was, can you make a loop trail?
Loop there.
And he said, yes, we can. And so went out there with Bill and we flagged an area that he liked.
And currently, the entrance that will be allowed to regrow is just a little bit further
Probably down in
from
this
there.
area right
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
No, I think it ought to improve safety.
Yeah, it'll be much safer. So I move that we vote to approve this bridge, as I have it here, the Dead Bangs Bridge. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ned. All right, 12 Edward Road, shed relocation, plantings, and Concom markers. Do you want to present anything here, Mike? Or I know there's, the homeowner is not going to be present.
Right, I can speak on this briefly if you'd like. So the homeowner received a preliminary de minimis activity after received feedback from 2 commissioners. And the work on site is the relocation of a shed away from the wetlands, hydroseeding the lawn, and doing a 1-for-1 replacement of loam without a grade change, and the creation of a privacy screen of trees. And he would also like to mow 1 mower length beyond the conservation markers for maintenance of the conservation markers.
I have been to the site, Mike has been to the site. The hydroseeding is taking place. There is no evidence of any grade change. The conservation markers are all installed and maintained. He does make 1 swipe with the mower behind them. I think if he didn't, they would be engulfed. The shed relocation is going further away from the wetland, And the plantings, I think, are in abeyance because he may want to do a fence, which would require him to come in with an RDA.
He's already filled out the
He's already
application
filled
for
out
an
an
RDA.
Okay,
For the privacy fence.
so he will be coming in maybe on July 5th, or
Likely.
that will be on for that. But thus far, we have a de minimis, which 2 commissioners approved. And I guess we need to take a vote on that de minimis.
Yeah, just a procedural vote.
So I move that we vote to approve as de minimis his shed relocation and hydro seeding. May I have,
Just to clarify, the RDA is definitely coming in, it's not being considered, it's being filed.
Yes, he filled it out with Liz this week.
Okay, so we'll be able to see that.
We'll see that.
be able to see the contours, we'll be able to see the grading.
exactly, and we can go over it and hash it out then.
Based on that, I support going forward for the de minimis.
The de minimis?
What's been already done.
I would also like to mention that the RDA opens up for public comment as well.
Yes, and I think there are people here who would like to comment, but I'm going to ask you to refrain until the July 5th meeting when the RDA is filed, and that is open to public comment.
Is the meeting July 5th?
The meeting is July 5th.
And what's RDA stand for?
Request for determination of applicability. It's a
Okay, so
permitting
you're saying
path.
that he's doing a fence instead of the plantings?
That's his current thinking.
And what about what he hasn't taken care of from the last meeting that we were at?
We will discuss
Do we
that.
go to, do we go to that gentleman that was just speaking there, if he hasn't conformed to the, what was ordered the last time we came here?
The conditions.
The conditions.
If it was conservation conditions,
Yes.
not building conditions, conservation conditions are dealt with by the Conservation
Yes,
Commission.
it was with you, we met with you last year.
Okay, yes, and so I recommend, I know you have concerns, I understand your concerns. I went back through all the minutes of the previous meetings, and the appropriate discussion will be on July 5th.
That
So
will
if
take in consideration the weeping willows?
we can talk about that.
So
too.
everything, so
Every-
we're talking about
every-
what was not done before and what is previous is being done now.
Correct.
And what he's looking to do in the future, all of it together.
Do we get
All
letters
of it.
as abutters about this fence?
You will not get a letter because requests for determination of applicability do not require a butter notification. But we are informing you now that it is most probably going to be on the July 5th agenda.
And if anything continues.
And check with the office, and if that changes, we can notify you.
But he can't do anything.
It's gonna be here though, right?
It will be here.
It'll be here on July 5th.
Yeah, no, he can't put a fence up until he goes through that permitting process.
Can do the other things that we approved.
He's already hydro seeded, and he can move his shed. But
The shed's moved.
Yeah,
He moved the shed. Yeah,
yes, and that's okay. He had our permission to do that.
Okay, did he have permission to dump 5 truckloads of loom there?
Yes, effectively, he did.
He did.
And that's why
You just
I
said
don't
no
wanna-
grade change, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we do not see any grade change.
Oh my goodness.
So this will be discussed on July 5th when the RDA comes in.
Okay, and we can show pictures and the whole.
Yep, you can
all of
bring
that.
whatever evidence you have,
And you're gonna look.
and we will look at it.
Okay,
Does somebody go out and take a look at the elevation of the land?
Yes, I've been there, Mike's been there.
No, but does somebody go and measure it?
The land surveyor, engineer for an RDA, that's not required.
It's not required, but
But
we have,
For notice of intent is a signed and stamped engineered site plan by a land surveyor, or professional engineer, necessary.
so that will not be a requirement for what he's going to do. But we can revisit your concerns about the grade changes on that property. And
At the July 5th meeting, can we talk about maybe some solutions to the lands being flooded?
You know, there are a lot of problems where you are, and there is, it goes way back. You have isolated vegetative wetlands in there that have been segmented. Yeah, there may be some engineering solutions that could be
Well, I'm
discussed.
talking about where his property and my property meet on 313 Careswell, between the leaves, and he used to throw duck poop in, you know, it's all filled. I was gonna propose maybe cleaning out that area.
The appropriate time to talk about that. That was discussed previously, and that can be discussed again. I believe one of the engineers had offered to go in there and do some clearing, but that didn't happen. But I'm sorry, I'm not gonna entertain this discussion tonight because we will have it.
Oh, I'm
That's all right, as
glad
long
you
as we
let
can
us
have
at
it.
least speak and find out about this July 5th meeting.
Yeah,
We're just looking for a solution.
I understand, and I know there are problems there. I am sympathetic.
Well,
I
I've
don't
lived
know
there
what the
43
solutions
years, and
are,
I can
but-
tell you all the changes on 12 Edwards Road.
Have caused all the problems.
Yeah.
100%.
We've all been there much
Yeah.
longer, in the last 10 years have caused
so
all of the
change.
problems, all
Yeah,
of them.
I know, I understand that.
So the meeting wouldn't come before July 5th.
No, we
Okay,
do
so
not meet again until
I can
July
just
5th.
call.
That's a what,
Yeah.
Wednesday? Wednesday.
Wednesday, July 5th.
Okay.
All right,
All
perfect.
right, thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, the Harbor Master and the Ridge Road boat ramp. Oh, I don't think we did. Did we? All right. We started to. I move that we vote that the 12 Edwards Road shed relocation and hydro seeding be a de minimis activity. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Harbor Master, is someone here to,
Mike's on.
I am here, I'm on Zoom.
okay, take it away, Mike.
Good evening. So, good evening, everyone, and commissioners. I met with Mike a few months back, probably late, just after the winter, with our consultant, Pat Brennan, and DPW Chief Champion, Rachel Boat Ramp. I tried to get some funding this year through town meeting to fix this ramp up. However, it is becoming a safety issue with the lower part of the ramp with the erosion and the asphalt buckling. I'm not sure if Mike had any pictures there. My plan is to fix the lower part of the ramp, basically saw cut it, and do a temporary patch with these precast boat ramp forms that you see in front of you. These are 3 feet by 12 feet. They're commonly used boat ramps now. They're a little safer. Probably, I think, not really friendly as well. I know this town of Hull is also doing a ramp similar to this. The town of Hingham just completed one on 3A, similar style. They all kind of lock together into locking. Nuts and bolts. So I'm looking to correct that. Furthermore, I think this customer Dave Hill from DEP about this. We agreed that the ramp could be repaired under various conditions. This ramp dates back to probably the 50s, 70s, where it was at one point 15 feet wide. Currently it's 25 feet wide. That's been that way since I've been Harbor Master since 07. However, I will be looking for a full 91 for the whole boat ramp. After we get the emergency repairs, and I'll go full public current, proper NOI, and correct it at 100% versus the temporary patch. At this point, I don't really want to lose the whole board and see something and close the ramp. As you know, we did put a new boat ramp on last year for the voters. That was a 2-year project, waiting for money and funding and build. So I'm just looking to get by to the fall and then see some funding to complete the full and not 91 license and other recruiters up there.
Okay, so this is essentially under an emergency situation, correct?
Yes, and I still have to find the funding as well. Obviously, I think I have some sources to fund it. The concrete pads are locally sourced from Playfair Road. They can make those in about 6 weeks, they said. And I did file my floodplain permit today, so that's done. And,
That's good.
need your blessing for this, and hopefully we can get this corrected before we get too far into the boating season.
Any commissioner questions or comments? Mike?
I did go out on site a few months ago, and it was in a state of disrepair.
Of disrepair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I would concur with that, I'm very familiar.
you're familiar with that, yeah.
I can't help but think that these precast ramps would be a lot more environmentally
Sound
superior
than-
to putting asphalt.
Yeah, paving in there. Okay,
I'm
I'm,
very familiar with it too.
Yeah, but furthermore, Craig, and also, too, I think the concrete pads are, like Bert said, more economically friendly. They also provide more safety features as well. As you know, the asphalt, like, we try to pressure wash the ramps every year just to clean them off with the algae and silt. And the next tide, they just get covered again.
yeah,
We cars sliding, trucks sliding into the ramp and sliding through the water, which is dangerous. We've had folks break their hips getting out of the car, sliding, tripping, and slipping on the ramp. So these have like a 2-inch groove on them, so it's going to give people some traction, definitely trailer and truck tire traction as well. So I think overall it's just an overall improvement, and we'll look to include these into the new design. I'll skip forward this real quick. We are working with the State Fish and Game for the Green Harbor boat ramp, and they are proposing these types of similar designs for the boat ramp at Green Harbor, which will be coming forward in the next couple of weeks under a full NOI. So just to give you a heads up on that.
okay. Mr. Finn?
William Finn, 96 Dog Lane. I can attest to the fact that we work on this ramp twice a year, putting in docks and ramps, on the ramp, I should say. This is a dangerous situation. It's really dangerous. That drop off is terrible. So this is a very much needed project.
Okay, in that case, I move that we vote for an emergency certification to repair the Ridge Road boat ramp. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, Mike,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Keely and Liz updated on the progress, start time, and I'll wait my floodplain permit for Mr. Stewart.
Okay,
Thank you
great,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is 9 Cottage Lane. Mr. O'Donnell, Commissioner O'Donnell is recusing on this. There is encroachment of weedy material coming through the conservation markers at the back of his property, and he would like to cut them back and plant a wildflower mixture. This is his property, and have you got any comments, Mike?
Yep, the growth there behind the home is mostly invasive and opportunistic plants, vines, sumac, etc. And then the designated action would be to create a 6-foot buffer behind this fence, which also contains the conservation markers, and to plant a wildflower seed mix to provide some biodiversity while also managing those opportunistic and invasive species.
And this is, I guess this is part of the open space for the horseshoe farms?
Yes.
Yeah. Any commissioner comment?
Wildflowers by nature, correct for this area.
For this area, yeah. And if they can get something that's gonna outcompete the, what's there, that would be nice. I move that we vote to allow, excuse me, a 6-foot buffer to be planted with a native wildflower mix on Mr. O'Donnell's property. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And
Can
then
somebody?
the block, I said that was native. Because first you said wildflower.
Oh, okay.
But you said native.
Did I say native?
Yes,
Okay.
that's good.
Okay, good. I'm programmed.
Okay, John.
Yeah. Okay, that includes concludes the business items. The old business is being tabled. And I'm going to read continuations as soon as they come back in. Okay, we have 5 continuations, beginning with 2000 Ocean Street, continuing to July 19th. I move to admit that continuation. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 485 Pleasant Street is requesting continuation to July 5th. I move that we grant that. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. 146 Dakota Street. I move that we continue also to July 5th. May I have a second? All in favor? Aye. 60 Foster Ave. I move we continue to July 5th. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And 274 Foster Ave. I move that we continue also to July 5th. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. And Ned, you are up again. We have the Recreational Trails Committee. Let me read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the Town of Marshfield Trails Committee. And Commissioner Dodge is the hearing officer.
Mike, we're gonna waive the confirmation of taxes and all that, obviously. All right, so, this is, for the Trails Committee, we're gonna have Ned present it. I was out there with Mike today, and I'll let you present it.
Sure, okay. For the record, Ned Bangs, Vice Chair of the Trails Committee. So this is an area that is, if you follow from, say, CVS where the rail trail starts, walking north to South River Street. The rail trail has really blossomed with the numbers of people that are walking on it. We had a crew cutting out there yesterday, and there must have been 15 people within 2 hours that have walked back and forth on that land. So when you get to South River Street, it's much like 3A. It's a drag strip there, cars are going fast, it's a corner. Some prior work, we had the DPW remove some of the hill that was there to increase the line of sight from that lot to the fire hydrant if you're looking towards the fairgrounds. What we're looking to do, and there are more people walking also on South River Street, and there's no easy way to walk next to the road without walking in the road. And what we're proposing is to develop an SWA, which would be a safe walking area. It's about 625 feet, I think it was, when Mike and I looked at it, from the parking area at the South River Street to the beginning of where the Pratt Farm, the first driveway, is. From there, we would walk into the property and use any number of trails that are there. There are throughways you can go once you get on that site. Members of the Trail Committee, it's part of what we do now, so we're maintaining the trails in that area, trying to take back so you can walk through the property without the briars and the roses and the poison ivy that you would encounter. So we're also establishing a liaison with the Board of Public Works. That happened a couple of weeks ago, and to help us with some of the bigger projects. We have some monies with, from CPC funds that we can put towards some action items. And we have some funds that, if need be, we could put towards this. We're looking to create a 3 to 4 foot width that would provide safe walking. And that would either be stone dust or reclamation, asphalt. If the DPW has some of that, then that's, you know, we'd look at that option as well. And that's what we have.
A few things I'll reiterate. Safety is obviously a concern. We have a lot of people walking from Willow Road around to the different trail systems, not only just through the trails. It is a very tight corner, so that's something to take in consideration. They have been doing regular lawn mowing cuttings and also due to the road, so this is obviously all pre-disturbed land, and they're going to be using pervious materials, and I believe that when we discussed with Mike, I don't know if any type of erosion control would be considered for this, but again, I'd like to open it up to commissioners at this time.
I think one question is, the Pratt Farm is covered by a CR held by Wildlands Trust.
Okay.
And it appears that you're right in the wetland there. So at the very least, I think Wildlands would need to be contacted to determine what the CR may or may not permit. Susan, I think you have a lot more to do with Wildlands than I have,
Yep.
and with this conservation restriction.
Sure, I'm happy to speak to that. So, first of all, I have to say that the safety improvements over there are dramatic. I lived in that area and used to come in and out of there almost daily with my dogs, and just to pull out of there today, I just couldn't believe how you can actually see around the corner. So I can see the need to maintain opportunistic plants. If they just grow back, then that, you'll negate all the work that you've done, really. But I have a couple of concerns. There is a CR on that, and I pulled it up today, and the work that you're proposing is within the boundary of that conservation restriction, so you would need to run this by conservation. And I can give you that contact information.
Sure.
They generally, for something like this, they would want it in writing, and they are obligated to respond in a timely manner to that. But my read of the CR is they would, first of all, never allow asphalt, whether it's, what is it called? Reclaimed asphalt within that wetland area, because it's been found to leach metals into the wetland resources. So that would be the first step. And any new trails going in, and so at first I thought this was just to control the visual, maintain that, the safe sight lines. But if you're talking about adding another walking trail, you need permission to do that. You can always maintain existing trails, but not add new ones.
Mhm.
So they would want to do that. But from a CR standpoint, from the conservation, aside from the CR, so that's number one, I have some concerns about approving this with an RDA, because you're right. As you, once you get, when you're walking along that area, when you get to the point of where that fire hydrant is, up to the telephone pole, it's clear, there's visible wetlands right there, so you are in the 25. There's skunk cabbage growing they're plainly visible, and I don't know where it starts, because as you get up closer to where the hill is, I don't see anything there, but you don't go too far and you're in it. There's wetlands there, and so we would need some delineation or some conditions on that, would be my guess. And the further down you get, so it's a pretty extensive, if you're talking about going all the way there, when you look at this, I mean, you're right in the area of a perennial stream, that's a cold water stream. So there's a lot of important wetland resources there that we need to consider whether we would be able to approve that so close, because there's no place you can go but on the stream. So you're in a really tight area there, definitely in the wetlands to the 25, from what I can see I'm standing there and I can see it, so it's within, I would guess it's definitely within the 25, but in any case, that's a different level of concern that I would have about just, letting this go forward.
Sure.
I would agree if it's on the conservation land. This proposed path is right alongside the road now,
Correct, yes.
so it's possible it's within the road layout.
So outside of the CR.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could possibly, that's what I'm wondering, you know, I'm just going by the
They-
maps. It doesn't show there.
they did a really good survey on this property, so your liaison at DPW should be able to help you out on that.
Okay.
But other than that, you know, what Susan says, I would agree with.
We haven't, that area hasn't been flagged, I don't know if ever. I know there's been recent flagging on the Willow Street side, which was helpful over there when they did the water main work on Willow Street, so there's recent flagging there. But when you go back to look at some of the old stuff and the plans, there's something in there, and it's not that one, but you can see that the wetlands, you know, the proposed work goes right up to that perennial stream, it looks like. Would you agree with that?
I would not. It goes from when you're turning on near Pratt Farm from Willow Street, would be the second entrance up. So you pass Zenas Brook and the first entrance next to it, and then it would be the
Right,
second entrance.
that's what I
up.
thought initially, and then I saw on one of the plans that there's a blue line that's right at the end of the proposed area of work on this one here, the hand drawn. So what is this blue line? Yeah. See that right there? Is that a drawn line or a continuation of? There's your perennial stream, I know just what you're talking about, that blue
right.
line there was, I
Yeah,
couldn't figure out what
there
that
would be a
one is.
perennial stream.
Yeah, and the wetlands here, you know, if you, once you get beyond that fire hydrant,
Yeah.
you'll see it, that's.
Okay.
It's right by that garage across the street.
Yeah, right, so anyways, I'm totally in support of, you know,
Sure.
what you're trying to do, I just want to be sure that we're not treating this any differently than we would something else. Although, you know, walking trails are usually exempted activities, but again, we're right there at the, close.
So, I guess at this time, we can either give Ned the ability to continue this, kind of work with Mike and get approval from Wildland Trust, or we can continue and go to a vote and open it up to Zoom and anyone else. So I don't know what you would like to do. I don't know what you need to continue with this project, but.
Sure, well, you know, perfect world, we'd be able to do it. We know there are some issues that we would need to overcome, and hopefully we could overcome them. But it sounds like the next step would be to speak with someone at Wildlands Trust to go over the concept with them and to bring them on board with what we'd like to do.
Right.
So possible written letter to Mike for a continued hearing for the future date as needed to get all this wrapped up. You can work with Mike.
Sure.
Are you satisfied with that?
Okay with that?
I'd also try to get a hold of the survey, DPW survey, that might add some clarity to where the town owns for the roadway.
Isn't there, don't they usually own like 10 feet in from the roadway? I thought,
This is
isn't
easy.
there
I think,
customarily that there is, you know, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what.
there's the road layout, which is
The road.
actually wider than what the actual. road
Exactly,
is.
Right.
exactly, so that's what I'm, you know.
I guess I'm just curious, how long have you guys been working on this project? I just got it pretty recently, so.
Well, as far as this part of it, a couple months,
Okay.
we spoke with, well, we talked with Rod from DPW and folks on what they were doing on the rail trail and concerns about the line of sight visibility, trying to pull out. So we started with the hill to cut that back. And then DPW was able to clear from the parking lot to the fire hydrant. And when we had the unveiling of that property, that's when we started to think about how far can we go now? Could we go to that first driveway at the Pratt to provide us, people are walking, or are walking and will continue to walk that area. and we were looking at what we could do to make it a safer walk.
All right. So I guess just customarily, I can open it up to anyone on Zoom, because we're already there. Is anyone on Zoom? And Mike, is there anything else you want to add? All right, at this time, I guess I'd like to give Ned Baines the appropriate amount of time that he needs with a written letter to Mike, and we can continue this hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Super. Thank you.
Absolutely. And anything to do to help.
Okay, thank you.
Ned, I'll get back to you with Scott's.
Sure.
He's really good, yeah,
Okay.
right away.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
He might have a better survey too, that
Yeah.
can clarify everything.
Okay.
Okay, next up is 288 Old Main Street. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by J. Edembro. And once again, I believe this is Commissioner Dodge.
Yes, it is. So, Mike, can we confirm taxes?
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna do a little present, and then obviously we're gonna have the owner, he's got a little more information. This is a residential R1 zone built in 1918. It's on a 2-acre lot. He's proposed a deck. The deck that he is proposing is 20 by 12 off of the rear of the house. It's a 12-foot structure with 8 by 14, and he's gonna be doing 6 sonotubes. It's roughly 26 feet into the delineated vegetated wetland, 100 feet. It's definitely outside of 50. Me and Mike visited today. So at this time, I would like to open it up to other commissioners. One note, I would want to note there is a septic system that's close for the setbacks. We did notify the homeowner that he would need to contact the Board of Health. He also, there was 2 additional trees that are proposed for cutting. And I believe Mike is going to help me speak on that, and also the homeowner. But
2 large trees, they appear to be ash trees. The homeowner indicated that on top of them being in the way for the proposed structures, that they suffer from some ailment in which he spoke to an arborist about, and suggested that they be cut or treated every few years. So given the position of the structures and everything, the homeowner decided it'd be the best route to cut those. If the commission decides to do some sort of mitigation for this, there's the possibility of conservation markers around the edge of the lawn. There's none in place currently.
And we discussed, I don't believe erosion control is going to be necessary.
Correct. The commission could decide to, but the terrain is pretty flat there.
Yeah, just regarding the trees, I had Bartlett's come out and do an assessment. So the emerald ash boring beetle is currently infected both trees. So I'd either need to treat the trees for $1,000 each every 2 years and cable them because they're starting to split, or cut them. So given the cost, yeah.
Hazardous as well.
Yeah, they're right next to the house too.
Yeah,
They
I
would
saw that.
destroy the whole house.
Emerald ash borer. Oh no, I was hoping it wasn't as close as that yet.
Yeah, he saw the
Yeah.
indications that, because they start on the inside and go out. So
Yeah.
you can't see it until it's too late, unfortunately.
They lost so many trees in Worcester for
Yeah.
that, and I was hoping it would stay west of us. Guess not.
Now, I know you said you were going to reach out to the Board of
I
Health.
reached out to Kathy today, so I'm just waiting on something back.
Do you need to change your septic system, or what's the question?
It would be that the deck is encroaching too close to the existing septic.
Oh, okay, so that's a
So
building
it'd
issue.
be changing the deck if anything, not changing the subject.
I'm good.
Second,
I don't know, questions?
Nope.
All right, so at this time, I'd like to open it up to Zoom. Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, I'd like to make a positive determination for special conditions with a letter from the Board of Health for approval. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So is
Good luck.
that the Board of Health?
Yeah, you're just gonna have to make sure Mike will get that letter and obviously work with Andrew because he's the building commissioner.
Great, yep, thank you very much.
You have a beautiful property.
Oh, thank you,
Too bad about
appreciate
the
it.
ash trees.
I know, they're huge and beautiful.
Yeah.
And, just going off of that, you vote for a positive 5, negative 3?
Yes,
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you had that.
thank you.
Okay, 300 School Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission, excuse me, on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the Marshfield Rod and Gun Club, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay, RDA, so just check the taxes.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, do we have somebody here from the Rod Gun Club to present this?
Well, I wasn't aware of this,
Okay,
but I did work on this plan.
I saw your name on it.
Yeah.
You owned it.
Sure. So I'm Rick Savant with Sundeck and Taylor. Yes, the gun club is proposing a new shed out back by the existing ski range out there. They have an existing shed that they're looking to place another one adjacent to it. This is an existing gravel area. It's an existing parking lot that's there. There's a BVW associated with the pond. That's the trout pond that's there. I forget the name of the pond. But that's what they're hoping to do. They need storage of I didn't put it on there, I'm like.
It's delineated by Brad Holmes.
Yeah, Brad did the delineation, and yes, they're proposing that shed in the existing parking lot. It's placed in a way where they can get access from trucks and so forth, because like talking about, they need it in that specific spot. I talked to them about moving it out of 100. But they have specific reasons that it needs to be right where it is. So they are just inside the 100 foot. And I believe it's going on just blocks. And that's about the extent of what I know about this.
Okay. Your comments, Mike, you satisfied with the wetland delineation?
Yes, I am. It's pretty cut and dry there. There's this pond out towards the rear of the parking lot. This would go directly adjacent to an existing shed on the property in a pre-disturbed gravel parking lot type environment.
I would agree, I was out there today, it's just as you described it. Comments from the building commissioner, he's gonna want a different sort of foundation, but we'll just make it subject to building regulations, building permits. Any comments from commissioners? No. Any comments from the public on this? I see nothing. I don't think we need anything other than normal conditions, do we, Mike?
And just standard special conditions.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing. Determination of positive 5 and a negative 3. I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, 119 Maryland Street. in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, to consider the request for amended orders of conditions filed by Arthur Rosenquist of 119 Maryland Street. And the hearing officer is Commissioner O'Donnell.
Michael, well, we heard this case, I don't know, a month or couple months ago.
Yeah, 2-3 months ago.
And we issued orders of conditions. So I'm assuming that the taxes, fees, utilities are still up to date?
Yep.
Butters have already been notified. I think all that was done by then. And I see we have 2 representatives here. So you want to present the project and the change for the amended order of conditions?
Certainly, thank you. My name is Al Loomis from Mackenzie Engineering. We prepared the plan. Arthur Rosenquist is here with me, AJ. He's the owner of the property. The issue came when we initially had that barn, as you see it there, rotated 90 degrees to the position it's in now. And what arose is that when you have a structure that's over 20 feet, an accessory structure over 20 feet, it needs to be at least 30 feet off the property line. So in order for us to get it to comply with zoning, the barn that AJ is proposing is above 30 feet. It's basically a 2-story barn with a gambrel roof, so it's quite high. So in order to comply with that provision of the bylaws, we rotated the barn 90 degrees and slid it over to the, the west, so that it would minimize any impact it had on the buffer zones. So it's roughly the same impacts to the buffer zone that we saw before. There's a slight increase, but to just slide it over would have caused a much more significant increase in the impacts to the buffers. So as a byproduct of sliding it over, we were able to put the driveway to the east side of the property, which serves to kind of minimize the potential impacts from the driveway on the BBW. So it initially came in where you see the existing driveway to the house. It was an extension of that went out over the proposed septic system and in front of the barn. But so we're able to pretty much move it away and keep it entirely out of the 100-foot buffer by doing this. So I think the potential impacts that a driveway may have are lessened by this scenario. We show erosion control, some grading within the buffer. The conservation posts are still shown roughly in the same location that they were shown before. We had to adjust it somewhat to fit this scenario, but I think that's pretty much it. I won't take up too much of your time, but I'll ask you to, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Yeah, so just to reinforce what you just said, I went out and walked the property again last week, and I think with the plan, and I think the plan has been updated. It was one of the questions that came up at the last meeting was the driveway and how the driveway was going to be located and situated, and so the new plan, has the driveway. We also asked for the fire pit to be noted in the plan, and the fire pit is in the plan as well. So I think that's, I think what you, as you said, when we met and we discussed the project, it met all the Conservation Commission requirements and needs, and unbeknownst to us was the fact that because of the size of the barn, there was a bigger setback that was required.
Yes.
A longer setback, a greater setback that was required. I don't, I'm happy, with these changes from the Conservation Commission's perspective. Any commissioners have any questions? Anybody in the audience here to speak to it or on Zoom? So I think, given that, I'm gonna make a motion that we vote to issue amended orders of condition. Michael, I'm sorry, do you have any comments? I know I haven't talked with you since I've been out there again.
Just standard special conditions and an insert under during construction, ensure erosion controls in place.
Yeah.
And that would be it.
Okay, so based on that, I'm gonna make a motion to vote to issue the amended orders of condition. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, 1121 South River Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 298, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, to consider the notice of intent filed by Thomas Dacey. And I will be acting as hearing officer as Commissioner Ring was not able to get here on time tonight.
Hi,
Hi, Rick.
Rick Savant and Senator Taylor. So yes, we have an existing single-family residence up here on South River Street. The owner is hoping to do some renovation and some reconstruction of the property. There are some wetlands that are actually off-site. There's a BBW across the street, across South River Street. There's also one to the south that is off-site, but the buffers are within 100 feet. The 100-foot buffers fall on the lot. As part of this work, the septic system needed to be upgraded also. We did a series of test holes out there. Unfortunately, there wasn't any viable soil out at the rear of the property that would get it outside of the 100-foot. The only suitable soils were where the system is proposed between the house and the street. So the system is in there. It's within a 100-foot buffer. We maximized the distance from the wetlands as much as we could. But it is outside the 50, but it falls between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer of the two wetland areas. The work on the house is, the front of the house is going to be remodeled and left as it is today. But as you can see on the plan, the areas in red are going to be demolished and reconstructed, essentially in the same footprint. You can see the outline of the existing underneath is dashed. It's following basically the same footprint all the way around. Behind the home and then the extension over to the barn, what was probably the original barn, now just a portion of the house, is going to be rebuilt also. On top of that, there's some new porches that are proposed that are not currently part of the existing house. Both of those, again, are out of the 100. There's a small section of the barn, or the southerly part of the house. I keep calling it the barn, but it's really just part of the house now. That is within the 100-foot. Also, the driveway, the existing gravel driveway that's there, currently goes to where the septic system is. It's going to have to be relocated slightly. It's shown in red. That is proposed to be paved. So as you can see on the table, the impervious table, majority of that increase is that driveway. Still, we're only at 20% lot coverage, or impervious coverage, I should say, on that. Again, the house is basically the same footprint. The septic system is the best that can be done with it. It's an 8-bedroom house, so it's pretty good. That's why it's as large as it is, plus the soil conditions are not great on the hill there. So we did the best we could with this design, basically just remodeling and reconstructing portions of that home and relocating the driveway, improving on it, and a new septic system for the house. That's what we're hoping to do on this project. Erosion control will be in place or in construction throughout construction until such time that it's ready to be removed. It's pretty much wrapping around the site, protecting it from both the wetland areas, although I don't anticipate anything getting across the street. But we wrapped it entirely around all the proposed work.
Are the trees going to remain? There's some really big old Norway spruce there, and
To the best of my knowledge, it was not
Yeah, they're
made
on
aware of
your
any
drawing.
tree removal. They relocated them as shown there, and they should remain. I mean, I haven't been informed that those trees are gonna be removed. Certainly, if they were going to, I think they'd have to maybe review it with the, certainly review it with the commission if they were gonna be proposing to. But to my knowledge, they're not gonna be removed. I don't know if the homeowner's here, or I haven't had the pleasure to meet them, but I don't think so.
are you the homeowners?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going.
Hi there, sorry.
No, I think as of right now, we're not planning to take those down, but if we do decide to, we, take the right steps to do so.
Okay.
So contact the conservation agent.
Mike, do you have comments?
No comment. I think erosion control will be a good idea at this site, and if those trees do come down, perhaps seeing if they fall within the 100-foot buffer.
Commissioner comments?
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a busy plan.
Yeah, it's a really cold house.
Yeah, it is. And
Um,
we needed these renovations.
But you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do.
Let's see, what did Andrew say? Okay. Is there any comment from the public? Hearing none. I move to approve and with standard special conditions, erosion control. May I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sorry you had to wait so long. It was how it goes sometimes. Okay. Next up, we are back to Chowder Marsh. This is a continued hearing, so there was no legal action. Sarah.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm glad.
And-
I had this nice meeting, nothing, no contact, everything's all set.
All right.
Commissioner
All right, thank
O'Donnell
you.
is the hearing officer.
Okay. I know Rick is up to bat again.
Yes.
So I think when we met, Michael, this is a continuation from the last meeting, right? And I think then we established taxes, fees, we're up to date, butters had been notified.
Yep.
Okay. And I think, as I recall, a lot of the conversation was around the tight fit that this pool proposal was trying to meet. According to the plan, it was going to meet them. Some of the questions that came up was the amount of soil fill that was going to have to be moved around. And I think another question was just ensuring that it fit in that corner, how many trees were going to be taken down. And I think those were the main questions.
Yes.
I think the plan, as it was proposed, you fit within the confines of what existed and in terms of the existing patio and what was being proposed. But I think we had some questions really around the property line markers, number of trees removed. And I think you said you were going to go up there and take a look at that.
Yes, I
why don't
did.
you speak to it.
So, yeah, I had a list of comments from the last meeting. We were concerned about, or we just wanted some information about the number of trees that were gonna be taken down, obviously the earthwork that would be taking place. Liz had mentioned some sort of bolstered up silt control on the site. I think Susan asked about the water from the pool and what we're gonna do with that. So I've done my best to address all of those comments. I did make a trip out there and conducted a little bit more survey work. I think you probably have the revised plan, it's got some colors and circles and arrows and things on it.
Well, unfortunately, I did not,
You don't have the new one?
I didn't get the new one. It was in the Google Drive, it was
Take
they
that.
had Constellation
So-
instead of Charter.
So, I think one of the big problems here, or one of the issues as far as a surveyor looking at it, the scale of the plan is too small. It should have been larger scale so we can see what's going on here. Because it's pretty busy in there when you're trying to show everything that's going on. But that's the way it was, so it is a little busy. I tried to clean it up as best I could. I located all the trees that are in the area that the work is gonna take place. I count 14 trees that I've itemized on the plan. We got some cedars that are, I believe they're cedars that are by the shed. There's like 4 of them that we've located and shown. There's a couple of gray birch trees that are certainly gonna be removed. A lot of small pines, 6 that I count in the area that will have to come down, and 2 oak trees. And also there's just underbrush and stuff there. I showed the tree line on that plan. You can see that kind of revision cloud sort of is where, like the canopy line that's there. So when you're standing in the backyard today, you look into that woods and it's hard to visualize where this pool's gonna go, and it is tight. So those are the trees that I believe are gonna need to come down to get this pool in there. I've adjusted the erosion control. I've spoke to the homeowner about all these issues. We are including now a dry well. I think we can accommodate a dry well on that site. The groundwater conditions would allow that for a pool pump down, which is shown between the shed and the house. I showed a proposed pump down dry well there for the purposes of whenever the pool needs to be pumped down or winterized, what have you. We talked about some plantings up above the proposed retaining wall, which I put some pretty colors and plants in there along the wall. We didn't get specific about actual types of plants other than they need to be native shrubs and flowers above there to hold the soil together once the work is completed. As far as the material that's there, I can't give like an actual cubic yards of material, but from my experience looking at it, it's certainly going to be, the majority of that material is going to remain on site and be used for the patio work. There will be a small amount of material that's going to come out of there, certainly nowhere near the 500 cubic yards where you require any type of hauling permit or something from the town. But any material excess material certainly will be removed from the site, not just spread around and pushed over the edge or anything like that that's there. We're hoping to utilize most of the material that we're going to be moving around. I think once we get the brush down and get it cleared out, I don't think it's going to look quite as scary. The way it is, looking at it out there, I mean, it looks like it was all filled in during when they built that subdivision. I wasn't involved with that, but a lot of that area behind that shed is just fill. You know, legal fill that was done for the construction of the home, but you look at that slope and a lot of the trees that I located are all 6-8 inch stuff that look like they were probably grown up after the subdivision was built and fill was placed, but there's quite a steep drop off down to that wetland at the bottom of the hill there. So the erosion control is going to be a big factor. I did show a lot, I told the homeowner, but we wanted to see a lot of plantings up above that wall. I didn't show any along the edge of the lawn. We kind of talked about it on the shed side of the property, hanging out towards the street. It's kind of tight in there. It's already really established tree line. I don't know how well any new plantings are gonna take right along that edge without putting them in the middle of the lawn or something. So we were hoping that we could really do a nice job of bushes and shrubs and flowers up above the wall to hold that slope together and mitigate it that way for the trees that are coming out. I didn't see any there's a couple of mature oaks that are back there that we located that I don't believe are gonna have to come down. There was a couple of good-sized 12-inch oak trees that are out to the rear that are gonna remain there. And frankly, the nice ones are on the neighbor's property that he best not cut down.
Yeah.
And I do think this is one that I suggested to the homeowner also, that we need to mark this property line before they do any work over there.
Mhm.
I think it needs to be staked out so everybody's clear, the tree guys, the site guys, where the property line is. So no, there's no issues, where the pool's gonna go, so we're working where we're supposed to be working. Because it's kind of tricky to tell where you're at when you're
Yeah.
standing back there.
Well, that was my, that
I'm
was.
sure the survey, the
My
homeowner probably, I'm not saying he doesn't know where his property line is, but there's a fence that's there, that's nowhere near the line. I think they have dogs and, you know, children that they were trying to keep in the back.
Yeah, I think
So-
I think he had I was out there, and I did walk the property with
Yeah.
the owner, and there was a staked off area, a fenced off area, which I
Yeah.
think was to retain the dog.
Yeah,
More than anything.
trampoline,
Yeah, and a
that's all it
trampoline,
was.
and, yeah, kid stuff. So, and when I did talk to Hanson, Mr. Hanson, what he was looking for was almost like a feasibility. Is it possible
Right.
to put a pool in here?
Yeah.
It's not like he's committed to do the pool.
Yeah.
And he was looking for a feasibility, and probably a part of the feasibility definition is gonna be the price and the cost.
Sure.
And this plan, you know, the new plan, you know, probably gives him a better picture of the work that needs to be done, you know, the
Yeah.
tree removal, which he assumed, you know, was gonna have to be done, but I think I'm sorry, I lost it here. The pool pump down, dry
Yeah.
well, you know,
Yeah.
those are all gonna, you know, they're gonna be needed, they're gonna add cost. I think as far as the location of the pool, I think, you know, it's, the bulk of the work is beyond the 50-foot buffer zone. So I think, and you had the silt sock for erosion control.
Yeah.
Retaining wall, I think really were questions about how much trees were gonna have to come down.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, this is a much more complete, informative, you know, plan, you know, for to help the owner to go forward. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments? Because when I spoke to him, he said, well, maybe 2025. And I know anybody who's trying to build a pool, there's a 12
Yeah, right.
12 to 18 month lead time. At least
Yeah.
a year or two ago there was, so, yep. So any questions?
I would just say that be specific about the plantings on the top of that retaining wall. Maybe not specifying exactly what the plants are, but be clear that it's gonna need a solid planting of native plants.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
If I could just add a couple, one other thing we talked about was the pool equipment, I think you were asking about, Susan, I've shown that on the plan also.
Yep, I see
Where
that.
that's gonna go, it's gonna be off in the generator, and Liz wanted, I know I mentioned it already, but we were talking about a silt sock and a silt fence. So I have a detail on the plan of a silt sock first, and then a towed-in silt fence along that slope, just to really kind of bolster that up for any erosion, which I've added a detail to the plan about that also.
All right, well, I mean,
Does it make sense to put any conservation markers anywhere? Or is it pretty much, you can't go down that slope
You can't go
anyway?
down the slope.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a huge, the edge of lawn, once you
It
get to
just
the edge of the
goes-
lawn, it
yeah.
just falls off
Okay.
very steep.
And
So,
that's
Yeah,
clearly
that's-
filled, that's
That's on
filled
the
in.
plan, so
yeah,
if they come back and the lawn's
Yeah.
really different.
right.
yeah.
Would you want the monitoring plan to include 2 years of monitoring or a actual planting plan? Would you want the planting plan to have a monitoring plan associated with it?
This is a retaining.
That's a retaining wall, the
retaining
new
wall.
plantings
Yeah,
are these.
will be on top of
On
it.
top of it, yeah. It's where probably some trees and brush will be removed.
Yeah.
I mean, they may want to do it anyways for privacy, they
Uh,
probably
right.
want some.
I'm not sure that requires monitoring.
Okay.
I guess, so commissioners, no more comment. Anybody on Zoom have any questions or comments? Okay, Mike, you've got the standard conditions, special
Standard
conditions?
special conditions with the, during construction, ensure that erosion control is in place.
Okay. So, you all set, Rick?
Yes.
Good. This plan is much more informative than the previous one, so thank you for that. I'm going to make a motion that we vote to issue the orders of condition for 34 Charter Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, we have 20 Massasoit Avenue. This is a continued hearing, and Commissioner Karen is the hearing officer.
So, to recap this, we were just concerned about the impervious, the amount of impervious data, and this either, the revised site plan shows that they've agreed to do pervious pavers where the new driveway extension is proposed as being
Yes.
asphalt. So that substantially improves the project from my view. So, did you have anything?
No, as you mentioned, the pervious paver expansion of that driveway greatly reduces the impervious area of the lot.
Only other question I noticed is they still have an outstanding floodplain permit, so.
Yeah, it is under review and being reviewed
Okay.
now. Yeah, certainly, I personally did it myself, but I haven't got comments, or we have, certainly not finished with it. But I did what we did tonight here, and went through that whole process and submitted it, uploaded this plan and the architectural
What we
bond.
need it applied for, we don't need.
Right,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah,
So
we
we can,
applied.
that was my, I want to clarify, we can
Yeah.
still close and if
Yes.
we want to,
Yep.
we choose to close. Okay. And you had no other comments on that? Right, so that was just it, the floodplain permit. Do we have any other commissioner comments, concerns? Anybody on Zoom that is here to hear this hearing and that has questions? Okay, seeing none, I will then make a motion to close and issue an order of conditions and the standard order of conditions, I would assume, right?
Standard special conditions, and then the insert again about erosion control under during construction.
Right, and the floodplain permit is in progress, so.
Yes.
So, do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I still say you're the only engineer left in town. I
Yeah,
don't know
I'd like to think so. I don't know.
Where did they all go?
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay,
Thank you
yeah,
very much.
right.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Rick.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. What's
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay, we just have one certificate of compliance for SE 422844, 18 Roosevelt. The rear deck is smaller than proposed. So I move that we vote to issue that, oops, sorry, Mike.
There's also a section of gravel drive area to the right of the home as well. Let me hold it up here for side by side. Yeah, there's this crushed stone driveway on this side, but it is pervious. And then the decks are smaller than what were proposed. So
Than
you
what
can
were
see it was
proposed.
14 by 14, and they're much smaller.
The driveway was just added, or,
Yeah, it's just crushed stone.
but it's crushed stone? I don't have a problem with that.
That's what we asked for.
That's what we asked for, yeah. So I move that we vote to issue a COC for 18 Roosevelt. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes our business. I move that we vote to close the Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting of June 21st, 2023. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.